welcome to the very first podcast that we're going to run through the Compound Kings hockey program. We're going to be doing a series of these, and hopefully they'll continue. Most of the topics will be about development, youth development, and other future prospects and places to go, hockey, and everything hockey, I think. Yeah. So one of our sponsors, of course, is Legacy Hockey Development. They're the ones who help to work on skills, shooting, passing, stick handling. We have a synthetic ice rink here in Quintong. Please let us know if you would like to come out and try it. Free trials are available. And Speed Plus, which is our skating treadmill, one of only 2 in Hong Kong. So come on by and try this out. Really made for kids that are already skating, though. So if your kid's already in hockey, then come on by. We also do have some trials. And it is my pleasure to get back to the podcast and to introduce a very close friend who has been out to Hong Kong many, many times now, and also to other places such as Bangkok. And we've also visited Coach Kristian here in Norway and in Oslo. So it was a great privilege to go there, and a truly respected coach, I think, around the world. So without further ado, Kristian Gilbert, please introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll move on to the topics that we've decided to talk about today.
Well, thanks a lot, Mike. Hello to all my friends connected to this podcast, and it's a huge privilege and a delight to be part of this podcast and to have the opportunity to have this talk with you, Mike. In February, it's 10 years since we first met, and we've kept contact ever since, and it's been a huge pleasure as well to come out to Hong Kong and also to other places together with you. So I'm delighted to have this talk with you. Kristian Gilbert's my name, Norwegian. I'm 47 years old. My huge part of my life has been and still is the sport of ice hockey. I started playing when I was, I would say, 5 or 6 years old. My dad took me to this hockey school for kids, and I think I was hooked at the very first stride. So wouldn't call it a stride the first time, but it became strides very soon. So hockey was and still is a big part of my life. Played until I was around 2021. I was on a pathway to become I wouldn't say necessarily a professional player, but I was on the Norwegian under 16 national team, under 18 national team. But then, a lot of different coincidences, but I decided to start coaching when I was 21. So I had my first coaching job as a player's coach in the second tier in Norwegian ice hockey, and then after 1 year doing that, I was recruited as a coach and started my coaching career. Took my education as a teacher and also my coaching education, and I changed the pathway in some way to it. When the possibility to become a professional player was not there anymore, I decided to aim for the possibility to become a professional coach, and eventually that happened, and then I had a combining coaching career with both junior elite clubs. I was a coach for different kind of national teams in the Norwegian Ice Hockey Association, the under 16, the under 18 for several years. And I also started to work as a hockey coach where I am located right now at the Vang Sports Academy. And then after several years, that was back in 2004. And then in 2008, I was recruited to become the sport director for all the sports here at Vang Sports Academy. And ever since since 2008, I've had that job, but I have combined it with different kind of tasks inside the hockey community in Norway, running coaching clinics and also coaching in different kind of levels, both skills coaching and also coach development. So that was what brought me to getting in touch with you, Mike, and well, the rest is history, and now we're here.
Now we're here. It kind of brings us to a topic that I think is kind of dominating even Instagram now. I've been watching some Instagram, and everyone is talking about development, and I think when I was in USA doing the USA hockey program for a little bit, and back in 2012, they had a bit of a talk about it because there was some resistance about this long-term athlete development. And a lot of coaches, why are we doing this? But USA Hockey was adamant. They were pushing for this kind of long-term athlete development idea, and that it's not really about now at 9 years old or now at 11. And you being the sports director of Vaughn, it's kind of, you out of all the people that I know would probably know more about long-term athletic development than most other coaches. How would you apply that to, say, all that knowledge that you do have, say, to ice hockey or to even other sports that you are also kind of in charge of?
Well, it's first of all, it's both a huge question, but also for me, it's a no-brainer to have the long-term, let's say, approach to coaching and also development of these kids. You mentioned 9-year-olds. I would say, well, first of all, our job when we introduce the sport of hockey to kids, it's we have to recruit them. We have to create excitement. We have to create a fun environment to have them. To have them approach ice hockey, to introduce them to ice hockey, but then we want them to stay. And we want them to stay as long as possible. And hopefully we can create this environment that makes our players, if it's boys or girls, to stay in ice hockey for their whole life. So that's the first kind of, let's say, approach that I always have to sports. Let's say we have to have a low bar when it comes to introducing the kids to sports, and then hopefully we can shut the door so they will never leave again. So I mean that's kind of one approach. You mentioned 9-year-olds. We want our players to develop, to hopefully have the opportunity to become players at the higher level. But to become the players on a higher level, this is you mentioned a long-term development perspective. I would say it's kind of like the marathon metaphor, not like a sprint. When kids are 9 years old, of course you want to have them on the correct kind of shelf or on the correct step of the ladder to take the next steps. But I would say way too often now, and it doesn't only come in the sport of hockey, but I see the environments, parents, some coaches as well, are too concerned or too focused on what the kids can do at the moment and now, and what the kids have behind them of development, instead of approaching the kids, okay, where are they now and what can be the next steps on their pathway to become a top athlete. And there's a lot of different perspectives to enter this huge question. One approach is, I know that they have been discussing this in Sweden now, and they say that the average age of making the debut in the Swedish Elite League is now 26 years old. That's the average age. That means that when you are 9 years old, there's quite a few years until your possible debut in the Swedish Elite League if you're a Swedish ice hockey player. So that means that you have to have this you have to have this joy, you have to have this hunger to develop and to become better. And I think that responsibility lies on the coaches, the parents, the people around, of course, the people governing the different kind of sports, to create environments to make it possible to take the next steps and to develop. And if you are too focused on maximizing your potential at 9 or 10 or 11 years old, what's next? And I would say that we are I see too much focus now on this kind of perspective, that we are too concerned about what the kids can do right now and what kind of development they have behind them, instead of approaching them, okay, let's see on what level are you now, and where and how can we take the next steps on your development. I would say that the perspective to make this development and all kind of sports is that we have to have a long-term perspective on the development, because there's a huge danger if we have too much focus on here and now, on stressing the development and let's say squeezing out the potential too early. The danger of destroying this whole desire to become better is very, very huge. It's a huge danger to sort of like burn out the desire to take the next step. So, well, this is one perspective, and I think we can probably put out some different kind of perspectives from my well, so far a long answer to your question.
That's fine. That's fine. I kind of like I use this metaphor with the kids. When we're working on certain skills that are very slow. Like, it's like drip coffee. Like it's you're building that cup of coffee drip by drip, and by the time that coffee is ready, you're going to enjoy it. It's going to be the best coffee, and it's not just instant coffee. Instant coffee is not the best coffee. Like, it's okay. It passes for coffee, but it's not drip coffee. Like, it's good, but it's dripped slowly and it takes time. I think that's, for me, the kids in Hong Kong, especially, this is something that, I was just having a conversation with a parent yesterday about how, oh, yes, of course, I support my kid. And, they'll say one thing about how it's about, yeah, I just want them to perform well, and I want them to perform well with other kids. And then I go, well, yeah, that's good. That's good. But then at what cost? We look at, we competed with some kids from Korea. And this was in Bangkok. We played in a tournament, and we lost. I think it was 18-0. I mean, these kids, they were playing a very tight system. They can move the puck around, tape-to-tape passes. This was U9. They were 2016s. And they played a 2015-14 team in the final from Korea. 2 Korean teams played against each other. But nobody could beat each other, because I think they were playing the same style. So they would just go back and forth, and it was the same stuff. They had to resolve the game in shootout. The little ones won, which was a surprise. But it's interesting to see. And then parents say, "Oh, that's what we want our kids to do." Okay, but then that's, how many hours they train? Like, and where are they positioned wise internationally? And is there a reason why that is? Is it the kids? Like, I don't know. Like, this is a point of discussion. Like, is it because they've trained too much now, and in later years it's like, well, we're kind of done, and there's not enough kids left to actually represent the national team at a very good level? Because Korea's not bad, but if they were really good, they wouldn't need to borrow or nationalize Canadians and Americans to play in the Olympics, right? Like, if they were that good, they wouldn't need to have these players. So that means that there's something maybe not fundamentally wrong, but maybe there's some things that they need to change in the way that they train. Maybe the system is something wrong with the way. I don't want to say the associations involved, because they're not. I think it's mostly the culture-wise down at the school level. They're very serious. And I was told that from one parent that if they do any individual thinking or choice making in the game, they would be told to they would get benched. You're not allowed to you have to do it this way, because if you don't, we're gonna lose. So don't think, don't make free choices. Just do A, B, and C. That's it. Don't do anything else. And if you do something else, you might get kicked off the team. And if you get kicked off the team, where am I going to go now? Because there's no other team. All the other teams will know that you, as a child, think freely and make choices. We don't want that. We want ABC. Isn't that so scary that this is what the coaches are telling kids? Like, how do you feel about that? And how does it differ from, say, the European or Scandinavian or even USA Hockey and Hockey Canada? Like, what's the difference between that and how they're doing it in, say, in China even and in Korea?
Well, first of all, I would say that I see this kind of perspective everywhere around, and I think you can find this kind of challenges, because I call it challenges, and actually in many ways also quite a big problem actually too. And I think you mentioned it. I think the word, well, at least one of the words is performance. You mentioned the word performance, and I find that we introduced the term performance way too early. That doesn't only come to hockey, but I think that the performance part of it is in many ways a dangerous term when it comes to kids and youth development. Of course, you can put it into performance, and I think it's important to have the different kind of nuances here, because of course we want to have high expectations on our kids, and I think that's in some perspectives we lose that kind of, let's say, the big picture when it comes to expectations and it comes to performance. Of course we have to meet kids. I mean, you and I, we want to be met by expectations, and there's also studies showing that the most important thing is that the coach believes in you. That's more important than this or that drill or training program or whatever. So it's about relations. But when it comes to the performance part of it, what has become a really strong focus in Norwegian sports and also by the Olympic organization, the Olympic Committee here in Norway, is that the long-term developments, we prepare to practice to perform, and the practice to win, the practice to perform, that comes way much later than when we talk about kids sports. But of course, the question you can ask yourself is that, for who are we preparing these kids to perform? When we talk about 9, 10, 11 years olds, are the kids concerned about the winning part of it, the performance part of it? Or is it the coach that says, okay, my team won. Okay, give me glory because I made this team win. And of course, the easiest part in a short-term perspective is to do what you just mentioned. You're only allowed to do the ABC. You're not allowed to do the free thinking. You're not allowed to be creative. Strict system. Then you have the play to win perspective. And I would say we have to have the play to development, to use the games as a development let's say arena for the kids, to use the games as a part of the pathway to potentially becoming a good player. And if we don't allow our players to try, to fail, and then try again, it's impossible to reach the highest level of performance when these players are at the grown age. Because we want the players to, when we talk about performance, we want the players to perform, let's say, in a potential window, and from when they are, let's say, 18, 19, 20 years old, but they still have a lot of years of development ahead of them. I talked to, we had this very interesting meeting. We went with all our leading staff at the Wang system to we went to a study trip to Denmark last fall. And in Denmark, we met with the Danish Olympic Committee, and we also had a meeting with the Danish Swimming Federation and the Danish Badminton Federation. And what's interesting about the Danish badminton is that they have the reigning Olympic champion in badminton, and they are competing against the huge Asian nations. I mean, Denmark with their, what is it, like 100,000 players in total, they have the reigning Olympic champion in badminton, competing with hundreds of millions of badminton players from Asia. And what they taught us was that they know of their experience. They know that their top players have a potential 10-year window of high performance. And this was very interesting because, of course, there are other countries in Europe and also, of course, in the world that looks to Denmark and say, okay, what are the Danish doing? And they try to let's say,
emulate.
Emulate, or you like just skip the line in the development ladder and try to beat the Danish players when they are 16, 17, 18 years old in the juniors. And what the Danish coaches said was that, okay, just let them do that. Let them beat us when our players are 15, 16, 17 years old, because we know on our long-term development, when our players reach this 10-year window of high performance, we will beat them. And it was so fascinating to experience the confidence that the sport director of Danish badminton had in their development system, that, well, the French, the Dutch, they were now trying to beat their players when at their young youth age, but they were just calm. And they said, well, we'll wait for them. We let them beat us now, because when our players reach the age of 20 or 22 in the Olympics, we'll beat them, because we have the confidence in our long-term development. And I think that can also adapt to the sport of ice hockey. I think when we see now on the top players, the example of the average age of making the debut in the Swedish Elite League on 25, 26 years old. I mean, if you have finished the development pathway when your player is, let's say, 15, 16 years old or even earlier, it is impossible to reach the very top level. So one of the big questions is, for who are we focusing on the performance when the kids are young? For who? That brings me back to one of the big questions as well, that my role models in Norwegian hockey taught me after meeting the great Dave King from Hockey Canada, who obviously had this small note in his pocket, always looking down to it with the question, who's the game for? Is it for me as a coach, or is it for the players? And this is also one of the key questions I think we need to ask ourselves.
Like you mentioned, performance. They're performing for the parents, really, because they pay money to go to these tournaments and all these practices. So they want their kids to perform so that it's for them, and go, see, my son, he did this. Look at that. Another 3 goals. Look at my son. Look at me. Yes, I did that. Well, he did that, but I also, it's interesting you use that word performance, because it kind of puts things into a different perspective, because, like when we go to tournaments and things, I've been lucky enough to have parents of the kids that aren't ones that, point fingers or get angry at stuff that, like if a penalty or whatever, they're like, okay, that's part of the game. Okay, whatever. But I have seen some parents, it's like the game is for them. It's not for the kids. And then that's an issue, And that's interesting.
Yeah, and I also mentioned. No, I think we
Go
need
ahead.
to ask ourselves the question as well. We need to ask ourselves the question as well. Is that of course the big question? Who's the game for? What's my role in this as a coach or as a parent or as a staff member or whatever in the ice hockey environment and in the ice hockey community? I think back to the introduction when you gave me the introduction to this podcast. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here talking about sports, talking about hockey, if I hadn't had this inner passion, this inner drive, this inner joy of my experience with the sport of hockey. So obviously, where I grew up in my club with my coaches, with my, let's say, ice hockey sport environment, those are my roots, and my roots, they were filled of course, a lot of hard work, a lot of determination and focus on the pathway. Because I had when I was like 11, 12, 13 years old, my goal was to become a professional ice hockey player. Then of course in the age of 18, 19, it was all of a sudden you realize that of course that pathway is it's a hard pathway. So. But still, it was fun, and I had this, the I would say the foundation or the fundaments of my background was the joy and the fun and the excitement of being part of the sport, and that's what we want to create as well. And if it's not fun, if it's not exciting, if it's not joyful, then the flame will just turn off. So sometimes when I get asked this question from parents, okay, what should I do with my daughter or son?
Yes. Oh, they cut out there.
Well, just make sure that your kid is enjoying sports when we meet again in 5 years. And then again, when we meet again in 5 more years. So if you can stay in the sport, if you can stay, taking joy, enjoying the being part of the sports, then of course the chances increase to take it to the highest level.
It makes total sense.
But still, I think also sometimes we focus also too much on instead of just being present and enjoying the sport. I think also sometimes we have too much focus, like I said before, on small details and in the development instead of and I think that's a responsibility we have as coaches. And you and me, we take a kind of responsibility now talking about this topic. But I also think that the sport community in different kind of sport needs to take this responsibility, and also this brings me into educating the parents, because I also think that sometimes we put too much responsibility on the parents of making, let's say, taking, let's say, wrong decisions. But I think we also sometimes we put too much responsibility on the parents, because a lot of the parents growing up, they have never been parents before. So this is for a lot of the parents, it's the first time they put their child into sports, and of course everyone wants to do the best they can for their kid. That's one of our fundamentals, and that's also why I want to also focus on the responsibility we have as coaches and as a part of the sport community to create an environment that focuses on this long-term development. Because of course parents are also stressed, and they are afraid of my kid not getting the chances that they should get, and that's also why I think we have a, let's say a huge development and an inflation in, let's say, Instagram coaches and let's say personal coaches. And sometimes this puts me into another, let's say, discussion. And I think it's fascinating. Ice hockey being a team sport, a game that is played together with teammates against opponents in plural. But I think sometimes when you watch the different kind of hockey, let's say, I would put it into frame development, Instagram accounts. If you don't know about the sport of ice hockey, it sometimes seems like we are developing figure skating athletes with a stick and a puck. It seems like we are coaching a sport that I haven't never seen it. I've never seen it on television or anything. But I think sometimes it seems like we are developing athletes into a sport that doesn't exist, and that's the hockey circus or the hockey figure skating. And understand me correctly, of course, it's important to develop skills, but hockey is a team sport, and this brings us back to again the performance. I think we focus way too much on the individual part of the, let's say, the hockey training or the hockey practice. I would I say that I think we need to, let's say, bring back more of the togetherness, the group mentality, the team part of it, to develop the players. And I don't think it's not it's absolutely possible to have huge focus on skill development, but to do it together with other players. And I also think it's
kind of leads us into that. Sorry, Kristian. But it does lead right into that social media, Instagram topic that I really wanted to touch base on. And you've already talked a little bit about it, which is good, is that, the perspective that we're training individual players to do certain set things. Like, you got to turn here, you have to, and the result is, and I've talked to a lot of, I've coached some kids that have done some of these, trainings, and I'm not going to say that I couldn't learn the skill. It's great that they learn the skill. But now those drills don't teach them when to apply those skills. It's just do them around some inanimate objects and hope that in the game they will do the same thing. And the game of hockey, at least from what I only watched hockey when I was younger. I never had the chance to play it. But from what I can tell, it's when you have the puck or don't have the puck, it's an infinitely, it's an enclosed space, but it's infinite, the number of choices and things that can happen. One person can make one choice. You've got 12 people on the ice. It's infinite number of things could happen. So that kind of training is not really a training that's going to help them, because it doesn't set them up to make choices. It sets them up to, that's possible that a pattern might show up in a game and it might happen. That's why systems work, but you still have to make choices. And if you follow that drill times a day, well, you're going to do that in the game regardless of what happens. I'm going to do a punch turn here. It doesn't matter. I'll just do it because I think he's there. You just do that thing because you think that I have to do it there, because that's what I was doing in training. It's automatic because you've done it 50 times, 100 times during a weekend or something. And then at the end, it's like, well, it's not useful. It is useful, but then it takes time for them to learn it in the game. When do I use it? When do I make a choice to do it? It takes just to undo like a pattern, like a habit. So I just don't get how coaches, it's almost a disservice to the kid. It's a disservice to them to put them in a position where they don't make choices, where they're just in a pattern. Planes fly patterns, okay? He's not a plane. He's a kid that can make choices, and they should make choices. And as you said before, they should make mistakes. They should fail, and they should learn from those failures. But if they're put in a position where they don't understand why they failed because they just followed a pattern, they're not going to grow either. It's very frustrating. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure you feel the same way. Maybe not as loud and boisterous as I am, but,
Well, I think
Ah.
this brings me back to what I said before. I think we can put all this focus or the responsibility to the parents, but I think we need to switch it all around. I think we need to take responsibility as people with knowledge, people with education, to have this, this clear thought and also the clear action when it comes to handling the kids and the youth. Because of course, let's say this example now, if the parents know that, okay, to be part of the team or to be able to play the game, you have to do what the coach says. And if the coach is more concerned about winning than developing, of course, it will always have this short-term perspective. Then it's important to bring in the certain number of skills or the level of skills when you enter a team or to be able to play. So this becomes let's say a bad kind of bad circle or whatever. But the responsibility lies on the coach. So if the coach or the club or the environment or the community is focused on the long-term development and also on the development to eventually take the next step to be able to take the step into a performance level when you are older, then the players will also, in my perspective, and also this is what we see, they will take larger steps and they will also develop into a higher level. It's very limited, and it's if it's fear-based and if it's like ever fear-based, what I'm supposed to do, then we will never have the players on the top level. They need to be allowed to fail. This is what we see when the kids are young as well. Learning is about trying, failing, and then eventually you succeed. That's the whole, the perspective of learning. And I mean, you learn it when you do it automatically. And we want to create players that make decisions, like you said. And that also brings me back to the skill development. It's, okay, why are we developing the technical skills? And from my perspective, we are developing the technical skills to make the players confident and able to handle the situations in the game without thinking. Then the without thinking comes in. But we want them to be able to observe, to make the decisions based on the information they get, and to make the pass, to make the deke, to make the turns, because that's the situation-based correct thing to do. If we program our players to do what the coach says, and then it's the coach's game and not the player's game. So and this again is, I think you had the coffee metaphor earlier. I would also say that we should, more than we do now, I mean, player development and also youth and kids development, you can also put that into another kind of metaphor. Let's say you're making a soup. The main ingredients of the soup is the base, and then you spice it up to get the right kind of taste. And I think we are focusing too much on the spices. We are focusing too much on the small details too early. We have to create this fundament, this base. Then we can spice it up on the way and later on. But if we only focus on the spice, then there's no soup left. So, I mean, and I think this goes in many ways hand in hand. And but I think so. Understand me correctly. I think we are too fast and too early putting all the responsibility on the parents. I think that the parents also need education, but they also need to get the message from the coaches and from the environment to calm down, breathe, let your kid develop on the way. But that doesn't mean that we don't expect or have the focus on the players and to try the players to manage as many skills as possible. But we have to have the long-term perspective, because we want the players to stay in the sport. We want them to stay in hockey. We want them to still have this desire and fire inside them when they turn 17, 18, 19 years old. And if we focus too much on this, let's say, to peak or to squeeze the lemon too early, the danger of not having any determination or any desire when the players go from kids to youth, the chances increase of just destroying this desire. So, but I think that responsibility lies mostly on us as coaches and as leaders and as part of the, let's say, the educated part of the sport of ice hockey.
Well, I totally agree with you there. I think that there's definitely things like you had mentioned before that even talking about the Danish Association regarding badminton is like they know that their time frame of peak performance is this 10-year frame. It might vary with athletes, but this is, they know. And I think that we had chatted about this before, is that now Hong Kong or in China, like I look at these kids in China, they're so good. There was this one team, apparently, I mean, they were like 2017s. We're talking first year U9s. And they were just faster than every U11 from other teams. And I'm like, that's weird. What have they been doing? Like, obviously they're not giving them steroids. That would be completely illegal. So what are they doing that's making this happen? Obviously they're just overtraining. They're just training every day, 2-3 hours. They're doing all this extra stuff that is making them this good at skating. Now, hey, if they want to do it, I'm not gonna, this is the nation that, and I'm not saying that China is like super bad or anything, but this is how they train their athletes traditionally. If you look at every gymnast that they've ever produced, every diver, every athlete in an individual sport has been rung through the that's it. They're done. They cannot do it for another 4 years. It's over for them. So is it too early? Yeah, it is too early. Look at other gymnasts around the world. They can perform for another 4 years. They can go on another 4 year and come back to the Olympics and perform again. But if you look at Chinese athletes, they might get one chance at the age of 16, and then that's it. And then like, oh, we got another batch coming. Sorry, you get your monthly stipend. To peak, they're going to peak at 13, 14, and then they're going to quit. And hockey is so long term that, like you said, even in Sweden, it's like starting to be like 24, 25, entering the elite leagues. These kids are peaking at 13, 14 years old in China. And then it's over. They quit because they'd rather just finish school. And you look at the national team. I don't know if you kept up with the Chinese national teams in the IHF, but the U18s and U20s have done very well for China. Very, very well considering. But most of those players are Chinese, but also live elsewhere. So they have that training from elsewhere. The culture is different. They've been taught a different thing. They've been taught maybe to think for themselves a little bit, maybe make a few life choices. And now they're, I think it was Division 2B, 2A, considering where they were was like 3A or something. So they've gone up 1 or 2 divisions, but it isn't because of the kids that were trained in China. Most of the kids that have moved away. kids like Simon Wang getting drafted in the NHL. It's not because he stayed in China and got trained. It's because he immigrated and changed the culture in his mind and changed the way how to train and changed everything so that he could become. Wow, I'm still amazed that he's drafted like, what is that, 33rd overall?
Amazing.
So are we over specializing maybe too early? Or are we specializing in one sport too much? Like, I don't know if this happens in Norway, but I do know like in Canada now it's starting to really happen in like Vancouver, the major metropolitan areas like Toronto and Vancouver, and even in China, you see it's over specializing. They don't do anything else. It's just hockey. Is that a big danger, or does that happen in Scandinavia at all? Or
yeah, it happens, and I would say that this is something that we try to focus on in Norwegian sports. Speaking of the Norwegian experience, there is a very from the top of Norwegian sports, we have a focus on let's say late specialization. We have a focus on doing more than one sports as long as possible. We have in our long-term development plan in the Norwegian Ice Hockey Association, we want our players to do more than one, to do at least one more sport than hockey, at least until they are teenagers. But that also comes because the sport of hockey in Norway is a quite small sport. We don't have a lot of athletes in the sport of hockey in Norway, so we have to keep the players that have entered the sports as long as possible. So we have had this discussion. Of course, we eventually in the development pathway, we need to focus on the ice hockey and only on the ice hockey. But that's when the players reach 16 years old, or 15, 16. Then if you want to become a hockey player, then you need to focus on ice hockey. But what we have been very concerned about is that in Norwegian ice hockey, we find it beneficial to do more than only one sport. We find it very beneficial for the hockey development to do more than one sport. And that is also a focus in Norwegian sport, that we acknowledge to do more than one sport. It even has had this, let's say, consequence that some kids do too many sports. So then you switch it all around. So they sit more in the car from one sport to another than they actually do their sport training or whatever. But I also think that this also has a bit of different nuances to it, because I think, well, one thing is to do different kind of sports, but I would also say it's important that as hockey coaches that we do our hockey practice has a variation to it and not only focuses on the hockey specifics, because we know that doing different kind of sports is beneficial to develop your let's say ice hockey skills or the potential to become a good ice hockey player. It comes to playing different sports with the coordination, with your hockey sense to do different kind of sports, with your athletic, with your mobility, with your coordination and everything. So but I would say in another perspective to this is that when we in Norway, we have this late specialization. We say that when we talk about early specialization in Norway, we have been talking before and after 16. When you come to some other countries, both in Europe and I also know in North America, you talk about early specialization before and after 12.
Yeah.
And I think that we see some tendencies that with our whole discussion today, we see that if we are not clear and focused from the top level, that we want our players to stay in different kind of sports as long as possible before they decide which sport they focus on. Then the let's say the markets or the parents or certain kind of interests, they try to to lower the age of the specialization to have this the focus on, let's say, you have to do this, or this is if you want. So they are in some way, the marketing part of it is creating, let's say, a desire or a focus on you have to take the decision earlier if you want to get on the train.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we have to balance this thing. And but absolutely, we see the tendencies in different kind of sports. But if we had gone on that pathway in Norwegian ice hockey, I'm afraid that we lose too many too early, because if we create an environment that it's either all or nothing, then we are not more players than that's a huge danger for our sports, or for the sport of hockey. They can allow themselves in other sports in Norway to be more, let's say, early to pick players at an earlier age. Let's say in football or soccer, as we call it, as you call it in English-speaking part of the world. There are so many players that it's more of a numbers game. Like you were combining with the sports in China, you can allow yourself that the number of players that pop out on the top are enough, but there are a lot of potential top athletes that just go down the drain. And we cannot allow ourselves to do that, at least in the sport of hockey. And this has a continuous focus in Norwegian sports, and this is part of the huge discussion that we have, I would say, every year. But now also the Olympic Committee and the Norwegian Sport Association, they focus more and more on the, let's say, developing the whole human being, and also the let's say the relations, and creating the good environment. And we also have been focusing a lot now during the past couple of years on the growth mindset perspective. That also brings me back to what I said earlier about should we focus on what the kids can do now, or should we look for the potential in what can you develop in the years that lies ahead of you? So this is the whole discussion, with the growth mindset, with the fixed mindset. And we try to have focus on, and this is a focus in the region sports now for the last couple of years, to focus on the growth mindset, because we cannot allow ourselves to lose anyone. We have to have as many as possible for as long as possible.
Yeah, the growth mindset. I do remember a lot of, like, even here in Hong Kong, some of the people from the Sports Institute and the Olympic Committee and things like this, it's talking to some athletes that had gone through their training, and that this is kind of like the new way, not even new, but just a way of working with your athletes, this growth mindset, that things have yet to come, things have yet to develop, and if you just keep working on it, it's very possible that other things are, obviously are around the horizon. This is very interesting conversation. I'm if we don't have to cut it, I would just keep talking. If we didn't have a work day ahead of you, we would just keep going. How much I enjoy these conversations. We probably have enough. We could probably go on and have an episode 2. But I think we're going to have to cut it here. I do thank you, Coach Kristian, Gilbert, for all of your insight, your experience, and your contribution to hockey here in Hong Kong as well. How many kids here have benefited from your tutelage and your training and the way that you reach out and can these children in a different way, you know, like in a positive way that, you know, they keep it for forever. And it's wonderful. And hopefully we can have you back out here or sometime soon here in Southeast Asia. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Who knows? Thank you.
Same to you, Mike. And it's always a pleasure to both talk to you and have these conversations. And I would say to have like a last message is to entering a new season or a new period of time now from August and a month ahead of you, whoever listens or watches this, is to have focus on having fun and look for potential, and let's keep the flame burning to still look for new development areas and look for potential and have fun doing it.
Thank you once again, Coach. Just a few words from our potential sponsors and sponsors that are already here. Of course, Kung Pao Kings Hockey, our YouTube channel will be posting this up here for all of you to listen to, and of course, future episodes. So, of course, like I said, guys on the 13th floor in Kwun Tong of Kwangsung Hong Center. Here, passing, working on your stick handling, and it is one of the best skating surfaces for synthetic ices in the world, provided by Global Synthetic Ice. We'll have some information in the comment section and also the bio. And of course, Speed Plus, our treadmill, where we work on your skating technique and fix any some errors that you may have, and work on your skating, getting longer stride and making it more efficient. So do contact us if you have any more questions about these. And thank you so much to these sponsors. And once again, thank you, Kristian, for your hockey and sports development. We'll talk to you very soon. Thanks again.